Hi guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So if you haven't guessed it by the title, today I wanted to go ahead and do a book discussion and movie discussion over Stephen King's The Shining. So the first part of my video is just going to be a brief summary of the book and what it's about and kind of my thoughts on it. And then we're going to jump into a very spoilery filled discussion comparing the book versus the movie. I'll also be talking about the ending and how they both differ. The ending is something I feel like a lot of people talk about when they compare the book versus the movie. And I'll also be giving you the rating I had for the book, how I would rate the movie, and which one that I would prefer and recommend to you all. So please stick around. Let's get started. So Stephen King's The Shining, the book, was published in 1977. And it's just the story of a family. We have Jack, the father, Wendy, the mother, Danny, who is their 5-year-old son. And Jack moves his family to the Overlook Hotel, where he has taken a job as a caretaker over the hotel during the winter months when no one else is there. So essentially, it's just going to be the three of them in this big old scary looking hotel for the winter. If you can imagine, some really creepy things happens to this family while they are at this hotel. One of the big things, and also the title of this book, is that their 5-year-old son Danny has what they call the shine. So basically he can not necessarily predict the future, but he is shown glimpses of what's going to happen in the future. And also with Danny, not only does he have the shine, but he also has this, for lack of a better word, like imaginary friend by the name of Tony. Well, according to his parents, it seems like it's an imaginary friend, but we see how Danny interacts with this Tony character, how his family sees him react with this character, and how that plays a really big role on this family. While they're at the hotel, Jack is there primarily not only to be the caretaker of the hotel, but he's also working on a play that is an important part of the story. And basically Wendy and Danny are just kind of living out their time trying to get through the winter, and some creepy things happen. Not only do they happen to Danny, but they also happen to Jack. And there are a couple of instances where Wendy is thrown into the mix and she sees some creepy stuff going on too. So this book is essentially just following this family and the things that they start to experience in this hotel. Now I actually enjoyed this book. My one problem, I would say, is that it is a little long, and that's normal for Stephen King's books. I kind of feel like right before we got to the climax of the story, it did kind of drag, and it was kind of like, oh my God, can we, get the story moving? But once I got through that, the ending was fantastic. I'm not going to say anything here. I'll talk about that later. But I really did enjoy this book. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but like I said, I want to keep this part spoiler free. So that's just the basic premise of the story. We have this family. They're in a hotel for the winter to take care of the hotel. And we're just following basically their everyday life to see the creepy things that happen to them. So the next part of the video, because I'm really like itching to talk about all of this, is we're going to compare the book versus the movie. So this will be spoiler filled. So if you are somebody who has never read the book or you've never seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest you go and either read, watch, or do both, and then come back and watch the second part of this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, the book was published in 1977, and the book came out a couple of years later and was filmed in 1980. So we have Jack, played by the famous Jack Nicholson. We have Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall. Danny was played by Danny Lloyd. And there's another character that's pretty big that I didn't really mention in the summary of the book, but I'll go ahead and mention him now, and that's Mr. Halloran, who was played by Scottman Carruthers. So, what I want to go ahead and talk about first is the characters. So, we have the three main characters, Jack, Danny, and Wendy. So, I'll go ahead and start with Jack. So, in the book, when we're following Jack, we know that he is dealing with alcoholism. Right before they moved to the hotel, I want to say he had been about 12 months sober or a little bit longer. But they moved to Colorado because he lost his job as a teacher out on the East Coast. And when he was living out on the East Coast, and he was a teacher, he had this friend, and they used to go out drinking all the time. And it was something that really, really ripped into this family. Wendy was on the verge of wanting to get a divorce, and Jack had an encounter one night with him and his friend where they thought that they hit someone, and that kind of gave Jack the awakening that he needed, and which allowed him to stop drinking for the time being. So when they go out to this hotel, Jack's been sober, like I said, for 12 plus months, and throughout the book, he is slowly dealing with trying not to drink. And Wendy is always watching him to make sure that he's not picking up any of those habits that he had before when she knew that he was drinking. So in the book, they kind of describe this one habit he has where he's like constantly wiping his mouth. How it was described in the book, I kind of feel like this is what it looks like. He's kind of doing one of these. And I don't know if that's like a tick where he feels like, you know, he has to, that's what he does instead of having a drink. That's kind of how I took it. I'm not sure if that's how it was meant, but that's what we're seeing in the book. And we're also seeing him, this hotel is like taking a hold over him, and it's making him think things that he would never think of, like trying to hurt his family. It's making him want to drink because he's trying to like deal with all the crazy stuff that's happening in this hotel. You know, there are several scenes both in the book and the movie where he thinks that he's at this bar, and at a certain point, you know, he's actually seeing guests in the bar, and he's actually have conversations with a bartender that's not there, and the bartender ends up giving him a drink, which is actually real liquor. So, you know, he's dealing with that. In the book is like almost 700 pages. So we're able to gradually see Jack change over time. But in the book, as soon as he gets to the hotel, like day one, he's already crazy. And I'm like, no, that's not how he was in the book. In the book, he is shown as this guy that's trying to fight, you know, his demons with alcohol. And he loves his family. He wants to save his marriage with his wife. He wants to have this loving relationship with his son. But in the book, in the movie, in the movie, right off the bat, it's like he doesn't even care for these people. He's being aggressive towards Wendy like day one. You could tell like he likes his son, but you can't really tell if he loves him or not. So I just wish his craziness would have been a little bit more gradual. I understand in the movie we don't have as much time, but I wish he wouldn't have started off crazy off the bat. So the next person that I want to go ahead and talk about is Danny. So like I said, really the book is based off of his ability, aka the shine. And in the book, we are we get more insight into how his shine affects him, his relationship with this person called Tony. In the book, when he has interactions with Tony, they're mostly in dreams, or he has like these dreams, and he's having these interactions and conversations with Tony. And then, you know, at one point in the book, they find Danny in like this trance where he's had, you know, this conversation with Tony that just scared him so bad. In the movie, I kind of feel like his interactions with Tony were comical. Maybe back when I first saw the movie, it might have been a little scary. But when I saw the movie now, it just kind of it kind of made me laugh. So like I said, in the book, he's having like these dreams of talking to Tony, but in the movie, he like uses his finger to like interact with Tony. So, so I'm gonna try to act this out for you guys if I can't keep it together and not laugh. So keep in mind, in the book, I said that he's having like these dreams where he's talking to Tony. In the movie, he kind of like uses his finger as his interaction with Tony. So for like an example, like if Tony is about to interact with Danny, he does one of these. So he'd be like, so my finger is Tony. So it's like this. Hi, Tony. Hi, Danny. How are you today, Tony? I'm fine, Danny. How are you? Like, like that's how it is. And I couldn't take that seriously. I kind of feel like we could have had Danny interact with Tony in a different way. I didn't like that. I will say his family, Jack and Wendy know about Tony. They don't really take it as seriously. But in the book, I feel like there was a situation that happened where they found Danny in the bathroom when he was in that trance-like state, and it really scared them. So they went and took Danny to a doctor to try to figure out what exactly is going on with him. In the movie, his shine and his interaction with Tony, I kind of feel like wasn't taken that seriously, and they weren't really talking about it as much as they did in the book. Again, it's probably because it's a movie and we don't have time to really talk about it. And they did mention in the movie that they was going to take Danny to get checked out, but we actually got to see that scene played out in the book, which I liked. So aside from Jack and Danny, we also have Wendy. I kind of feel like in the movie, Wendy's just there. You know, she's the mother. She, you know, is cooking and taking care of Danny and getting on Jack's nerves in the movie. But in the book, I kind of feel, you know, she's depicted as this woman who really loves her husband, and she's really hoping that he can get over his alcoholism and wants to be there for him. But she's also afraid for not herself, but for Danny, because there was an incident where Jack was upset that Danny messed up some of his papers that he was writing a book with, and Jack accidentally broke his arm because he was drunk. And Wendy was always afraid that incident or an incident like it was going to happen again. And we see how scared she is of not only Jack hurting Danny again, but essentially her family falling apart. In the movie, we don't see that at all. You can tell that obviously she loves her family and doesn't want anything to happen to them, but we don't really truly get to see from her point of view how just scared she is of losing her family. So I also wanted to mention Mr. Halloran. I didn't mention him in the book summary, but I am going to go ahead and mention him now. He actually plays a big part because he actually has the shine too. In the book, him and Danny end up having this long conversation about their shine and how Mr. Halloran knows that something's about to happen because he gets this strong smell of oranges. And for the life of me, I can't remember if they mentioned that in the movie, but that was a big thing in the book. How anytime something happens, like he just gets this strong smell of oranges. And him and Danny in the book have this long conversation. They have a conversation in the movie too about their shine, but it doesn't go, obviously it doesn't go into as much depth as it did in the book. But Mr. Halloran made it clear to Danny, like, hey, I'm leaving for the winter. I'm going to be down south, but if you need me, you use your shine and I'll be up here to help you ASAP. Boy, does that come in handy later. So, a couple of things that I'm not going to break down every single difference between the book and the movie because there are a lot and we would be here forever and we don't have time for that. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the bigger things. So one of the things that is definitely different between the book and the movie is how Danny is depicted in the movie. So in the movie, everybody knows Danny because he's riding around in this hotel on his big wheel. That's never mentioned in the book. He's never on a bike in a book. He's always, out somewhere playing or trying to explore the hotel, or he's outside trying to play in the snow. And, we see these moments where he's playing in the snow with his parents and they're having this family time. We don't see that in the book. We see him riding around this hotel in this big wheel the whole time. And I didn't really, I don't get it. I didn't understand. I liked in the book how, we got to see those precious moments he had with his family. But like I said, we don't get that in the movie. One of the other huge things that's in the movie that's not in the book are those twin girls. The creepy twin girls. Even if you've never seen the movie, you know those creepy twin girls that I'm talking about. They are in the movie. They are not in the book. And even as I finished the book, I was like, did I miss the part about the girls, about the twin girls? And no, it's because they weren't in the book. And those twin girls are supposed to depict the daughters of the last caretaker, which was this man, his last name was Grady. The last caretaker, he had the two twin daughters, and he ended up killing his daughters, killed his wife, and then killed himself. So that's another big thing. We didn't see the twin girls in the book, but we got the backstory of Grady both in the book and in the movie. So that's pretty much the same. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that was really significant in the book that they changed in the movie. And that is room 217, aka room 237 in the movie. Now, in the book, we had this whole chapter of room 217. It was a huge thing about room 217. Even before, Mr. Halloran had told Danny, do not go into room 217. One of the maids seen something in there that they shouldn't have seen, and you're going to see it too if you go in there, so don't go in there. But if you go in there, just remember, it's not real. It was this whole thing. There was a chapter heading in the book, 217. We get to the movie. This bothered me so bad, and I don't know why. But in the movie, the room was 237. For the life of me, I cannot figure out why they just could not keep it 217. Like, why did they make it 237? If somebody could explain that to me, please do. Because that was just one of those things. I was like, why would you change that? What was the purpose of changing the room? Anyways, the details of what happened in room 217, I'm going to keep saying 217, even though in the movie it says 237. But the details of what happened in that room are totally different. And I would actually say I prefer what happened in the movie in that scene based off of what happened in the book. So let's break this thing down. So, in the book, like I said, Mr. Halloran told Danny not to go into room 217. As we all know with young kids, they're going to do the exact opposite of what you tell them not to do. So, in the book, Danny eventually, after he walks past the door a few times, goes up to the door, leaves and gets scared, and then comes back another day and tries to go in there. Eventually, he actually goes into room 217, and when he gets in there, he already has this feeling like something is wrong, and he goes into the bathroom. He sees this woman in the tub, and it freaks him the heck out. And he runs out the door and he shuts it. And then the woman that he saw opens up the door and tries to strangle him. And that's when Wendy finds him. She sees the bruises around his neck and instantly thinks that Jack had something to do with it, because again, remember, he had that incident with Danny a few years ago where he broke his arm. So Wendy's already in her mind like, oh my God, he's trying to hurt my son again. That's how that scene went in the book. In the movie, we see that Danny is going to go into this room. And if I remember correctly, we don't actually see him go into this room. But we see that Jack goes into this room. And when Jack goes into the room, he sees a dead woman in the tub. And when he sees the dead woman in the tub, it's this young, fine, dead woman who walks out the tub naked and sashays over to him. And, you know, he's feeling himself. Oh, this young thing is looking at me. So, in the book, Jack goes into the room. He never really sees anything, but he has a sense that something is in there. But in the movie, he actually sees this person. So he sees this young naked thing walking up to him, and they start making out. And we can like see it in the bathroom mirror. But while he's like making out with her, we can see that her body's changed, and she turns into this old, wrinkled, dead woman, and he is totally disgusted. So when he goes back out to his family, he's like, nah, I ain't seen nothing up there. And that's basically the same thing that he does in the book. You know, no, I didn't see anything. Even though in both book and movie, he either senses or actually sees something, but he lies to his family and says that he didn't see anything. So I actually liked the way they depicted it in the movie, but in the book, if I think about it, it was actually creepier because, you know, sensing something sometimes is almost as scary as actually seeing it. So, but if I had to choose between the two scenes, I actually enjoyed the one in the movie because I think I kind of got a nice little laugh out of that. There's two more things that I want to mention before I talk about the ending. So, let's see. I'll go ahead and start with this one first. So, in the book, it talks a lot about these big hedge creatures. So, I think it was like, so the hedge creatures, so it was like, you know, the bushes that are like sculpted to look like animals. The hedge animals. I think that's what they called them in the book. So that's why I'm going to call them the hedge animals. So that's a big thing that happened in the book. So in the hedges, we had these things where, you know, Jack is outside in the snow and he starts to notice that these hedge animals, I want to say there was 4 of them. It was like a lion, a rabbit, a dog, and something else, I think. He starts to notice that these hedge animals look like they moving. And, you know, it's one of those things where you kind of like, see it out of the corner of your eye and you're like, no, that can't be real. And then while he's still out there, it looks like they didn't jump down off the little tree stump they on and they're just getting closer to him. He's like, nah, that's not happening. So not only did he have a creepy encounter with those hedge animals, but Danny takes his little self out to the playground and he has the same creepy experiences with the hedge animals where he kind of sees them and is like, is that thing, is it moving? It looks like it's moving. You know, he's having one of those encounters. And there is a point in the book where he tries to tell his dad, like, I know because I have the shine. I know you seen them hedge animals move. And his dad was like, nah, I ain't seen no hedge animals move. And his dad is like getting angry with him because his dad knows that Danny knows that he saw them hedge animals move. So, you know, we're getting, I like the hedge animals. So we're getting those two encounters. But the creepiest encounter we had was with Mr. Halloran, because there's a point in the book where, you know, Jack finally falls off the hinges from basically the hotel taking over him, and Danny calls Mr. Halloran through his shine, you know, help, we need help here. And Mr. Halloran makes a trek back up to the West Coast so that he can help Danny and his family. But while he's trying to get into, when he finally makes it to the hotel, because trust me, that was a long journey for him in itself. But when he finally tries to make it to Danny and his family, he gets attacked by these hedge animals. Like, and I'm not talking about he just thinks he sees them. No. These things are scratching at him. They're trying to pull him away from the hotel so that he can't get inside. It's a whole thing. That's not what happened in the movie. In the movie, we don't get no hedge animals. I love the hedge animals, but we don't get those. We get a maze. We get a dang on maze. So we get a maze made out of hedges. And there's a scene where Danny and Wendy are out playing around and they're trying to find their way through this maze. That's how we know the maze is out there. We'll come back to that in a moment. But just in case you missed it, in the book we had the hedge animals. In the movie we had the hedge maze. This will be important in the ending in a few minutes. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the boiler room. So one of the most important things that was talked about when Jack was being shown around in the book was how to take care of the boiler. I don't even know how to explain it because I don't know how boilers work. But however it's supposed to work, he was supposed to make sure that they stay operational. So that was a big thing of them explaining that to him before they left him and his family alone in this hotel. You need to watch this boiler. In the movie, nobody said anything to this man about this boiler. The person who was watching the boiler was Wendy. There was like a scene or two where we saw her like down in the basement and she went to go check the boiler, and that was it. Now, I bring up the boiler because this is where we're going to talk about the ending. The boiler and the hedges play a big role in how this movie ends. Dun dun dun. So, we'll talk about the book first and how it ended. So, the ending of this book, we have Mr. Halloran, who finally makes it up to the hotel after he's been called by Danny through the shine, after he has been attacked by these hedge animals. He finally makes it into this hotel. And when he gets into the hotel, he sees a beat down Wendy, who Jack has just went to town on her with the sledgehammer. I think he like broke some ribs. He hit her in the leg. She's dang near dead after the way Jack came at her with this jackhammer. Or not jackhammer. Whoa. This like mallet. It's a mallet. This mallet thing. And you know, we got that infamous scene where she's in the bathroom and he's trying to break in the bathroom. So all that's taking place. So as soon as Mr. Halloran comes into the hotel, he's looking for Wendy and calling Danny. Jack comes and whacks him upside the face with this mallet and breaks his jaw. And then Jack goes off and he's starting to look for Danny. During all this that's happening, Wendy can't find Danny, but Danny is off trying to save his daddy. Jack is going to go find Danny. Danny, through this whole time, throughout the whole book, we know that Danny really loves his father. He already had these premonitions that something was going to go down in this hotel, hence red rum. Throughout all of his premonitions about what was going to happen in this hotel, we were getting red rum, red rum. If anybody knows anything about The Shining, we know about the damn red rum. If you ain't even seen the movie, you know what red rum came from, aka murder spelled backwards. So Danny knew that something was going to happen to his father the entire time. We all knew that something was going to happen to his father. Jack didn't know and Wendy didn't know. But throughout the book, we have this progression of Jack becoming more aggressive, somewhat kind of demented toward the end of it. This hotel is just like really taking over him and it really wants him to kill his family. Hence the reason why he is beating up Wendy with this mallet. He's trying to hurt Halloran and he's trying to kill Danny. Danny is on, I want to say like the 3rd floor of the hotel. He sees his dad and he sees that his dad's face has kind of become like demonic. And that's when he sees that, Danny is finally like, yo, this is not my daddy. I can't fight for this man anymore. I can't try to save this man anymore. I need to go back to my mom and we need to get out of this hotel. So Danny is trying to get to his mother. Jack is still trying to chase after them so he can kill them. And at this point, like I said, the hotel has completely taken over his body. So whatever entity was in that hotel, it's in Jack right now. Now, remember when I was telling y'all about the boiler and how it didn't seem like it was that important? This is where the boiler comes into play in the book. Well, that day, Jack didn't watch the boiler like he should have. So I believe it was getting too hot. So I want to say Danny, maybe, and I could have this wrong, but I want to say that Danny was like, oh my God, it's going to blow up. Mr. Halloran was like, we got to get out of here. So he decides to hurry up, run, and take Danny and Wendy out of the hotel. The hotel ends up blowing up because the boiler is too hot, killing Jack in the process. But one thing that happened at the end in the book that I liked was, so Mr. Halloran got them out of the hotel, and then he got to the hotel on a snowmobile. So now he needs to get them back, and they have to get on the snowmobile. But because they got out of the hotel so fast, Wendy's dang near dead, and Danny really ain't got no clothes on to be outside in the winter like that. So he's trying to go to the shed so that he can get them something warm while they riding back in this snowmobile. Well, while he's in the shed, whatever demon entity thing that was latched on to Jack in that hotel latched itself on to Mr. Halloran. So while he's in there trying to find them a blanket, this thing takes over him and he's starting to get these thoughts like, I really need to kill them. So he starts to kind of go for one of the mallets that's in the shed, but then he stops himself and is like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me hurry up and get my ass out of here. So he goes out of the shed after the entity, he got the entity off of him, and they go riding off and they're safe. That's what happened in a nutshell. The book describes all of that a lot better than I can. That's what happened in the book. Now, what happened in the movie was, so we got that infamous scene where, you know, Wendy's in the bathroom and she's getting attacked, or Jack is trying to break into the bathroom. And, you know, that's when we get that infamous scene where he breaks in there and his face is through the door and he's like, here's Johnny. I think that's what he says. And we get that scene. And in the book, Wendy's in the bathroom by herself. In the movie, it's Wendy and Danny in the bathroom, and she helps Danny get out the bathroom through the window and wants him to get away, but then Danny runs back into the hotel. But anyways, so we get that whole scene. Halloran, Mr. Halloran does come back, but he survives in the book. Jack kills him in the movie. So Mr. Halloran is dead. He literally takes 2 steps into the hotel, gets whacked to death by Jack. There's no more Mr. Halloran. So what happens is Danny was trying to hide from his dad. His dad finds him, and Danny decides to go run into that hedge maze, and Jack follows. And Danny is trying to run, and Jack is after him, and then Danny realizes, oh shoot, my footprints in the snow can show him where I'm at. So then he gets smart and jumps off the path and then tries to like wipe away his footprints, and then Jack can't find him no more, and then Jack basically gets stuck in the maze. Danny runs out to Wendy and they drive away in the snowmobile contraption that they have in the movie. And we get like this scene the next day where Jack is like frozen in the snow like this, and that's it. Now, based off of that, which ending do you guys think I liked? The book. The book to me was way better as far as the ending goes. Now, those are my thoughts on the book versus the movie. There's a lot more that I could say. We could, like I said, we would be here all day if I broke down every single thing. But I tried to pick out the things that stood out the most to me. And if you can't tell, I would recommend the book over the movie. I do think the movie was good. Jack Nicholson did a phenomenal job playing this crazy, demented guy. But I just think reading the book, you get so much more of what the family is actually going through. And I think you would appreciate the characters more if you read the book. I would say read the book first and then go back and watch the movie. That way you can make a judgment call on which one you would prefer. I did rate the book a 4 out of 5 stars. The reason why, as much as I like the book, the reason why I didn't give it a 5 out of 5 is because I mentioned it before. There was a part in that book that just dragged, and it was like, okay, like I just want to get to the end right now. And that book did not need to be almost 700 pages. They could have took a couple hundred pages out of that, and it would have just been fine. But I enjoyed the book better. 4 out of 5 stars. If I had to rate the movie, I would say seeing it when I was younger, it probably did scare me a little bit. You know, those creepy little girls, like I said, the twins, they were creepy. Everyone knows that. Danny walking around talking about some red rum. That was creepy. You know, when I was younger. Not so much now. But the movie was good. I'd give it a B. On an A to F scale, I'd give the movie a solid B. Jack Nicholson did his thing in that movie. So that's my review of the book and the movie. Please, guys, in the comments, let me know what you thought and let me know which one you would prefer, book or the movie. And as always, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you are notified anytime I upload any new content. And that's all that I have for you guys. See you next time. Bye.